This thing means that you probably can't wear washing goes as often as you would like. It also means that you have to take regular visits to the hair salon. And ultimately, it makes you contemplate being a natural hair babe and whether it's all worth it. Have you guessed what it is yet? Stick around to find out. What's up curlies, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Kiki, and if you are new here, I do all things curly hair tips, product reviews and styling. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the one thing that is preventing you from achieving your hair goals and stopping that length retention, what we are all so desperately searching for. And that one thing is, if you haven't guessed it, it's single strand knots. So what are single strand knots? Single strand knots, otherwise known as fairy knots, are single strands of hair that tangles up on itself, creating a really tiny knot over one strand. If you have a feel down your hair, you'll often feel that your hair is smooth and then it has a little kind of knot on it or a little bubbly feel, and then your hair continues to the end. Usually we find these more when we wear wash and goes and our hair is out, because our hair has more chance of getting tangled on itself. A number of things can cause these to happen in our hair. Mostly it is due to dryness and friction, and if your hair is, for example, in a wash and go state and you have really high density hair that is quite tight and coily, when you are moving around, when you're doing your day-to-day life, the hairs will often rub on each other and tangle if they are dry, and this will cause a single strand knot. Why do single strand knots prevent hair growth? So the reason for this video is that single strand knots are ultimately split ends. They are classed as one of a split end. And if you know anything about split ends, there is no way that we can get rid of split ends other than trimming them off. For me, I get a lot of single strand knots in my hair, especially when I wear it in a wash and go state and it's nice and full and it's bouncy and curly. Ultimately, it's due to the fact that I've maybe left my hair dry a little bit longer than I should have, and it doesn't have kind of like the lubricant to just stay as it is and just kind of like rub off other strands of hair. Instead, it kind of like is more rough, and then if it is dry, it will just knot up on itself. Usually I do get these more on towards like the nape area of my neck, where my hair gets a lot more tangled than the rest of my hair for some reason. I think it's probably due to my clothes maybe, and me not moisturising the underneath of my hair a little bit more than the rest of my hair. But usually it happens for me when my hair is out simply, and that prevents me from wearing my hair out. That is the one thing that stops me from wearing wash and goes all of the time, is that those single strand knots will literally take over your life. And if you have these single strand knots, you will need to make sure you take regular visits to the hair salon or a professional stylist to ensure that you get these trimmed off and they don't cause any more problems for your hair. So what can we actually do to prevent or at least manage single strand knots in our hair? So the first thing you can do, and this is probably one of the most obvious ones and one that I swear by, is wear your hair in a stretched style or a protective style for a few days out of the week or a few weeks out of the month. I find that when I wear my hair in a stretched state, or if it's in braids or twists, that I can really manage the amount of friction that goes on in my hair and the amount of movement that happens, and just reduce that so I don't get as many single strand knots. The worst possible thing you can do if you are somebody who gets these single strand knots is wear your hair in a wash and go state. And it's usually more natural hair girls that have like type 4 hair or really tight type 3 hair that is maybe high density or maybe coloured. Those are more susceptible to single strand knots than any other hair types. And it's just because our hair is a lot more curly and it has more chance to move around and it has more shrinkage, therefore it's just something that we have to get over and try and manage. The second thing you can do, as well as wearing protective styles, is really make sure your hair is not getting to the point where it's dry. I've made this huge mistake before in the past where I wear wash and goes and I don't re-moisturise my hair as often as I maybe should, especially if you're somebody who has high porosity hair or you have like medium porosity hair. Although our hair can kind of get to like day 3 and day 4 and even day 5 and it will look really nice to the eye, it will be getting dry and it will be on the drier side. in comparison to where it was on your wash day. So the best thing you can do is, I would advise moisturising your hair every other evening when you are wearing a wash and go. And the last thing I would recommend you doing in order to prevent these fairy knots is, I would recommend you using an oil on your hair. And oils can be really good because they create a small barrier over the hair shaft, which makes it that little bit easier and that little bit less susceptible to rubbing and friction, as opposed to not having anything at all. I think the worst thing you can maybe do is wear a really lightweight product like a mousse and just let your hair dry out and keep that in for a few days, as opposed to maybe using a nice leave-in and a gel, and then you maybe lubricate your ends with an oil or even something that has silicone in it that will give you that little bit more extra protection with your ends if you are someone who suffers with these single strand knots. And I know I need to take my own advice as well, because I kind of don't really pay it as much attention to my hair as I should throughout the week. I get really lazy, and that is just why I choose to wear protective styles mainly during the week, because it means I don't have to think about how I have to maintain my wash and goes from day to day. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you are somebody who struggles with these single strand knots or fairy knots, and click the thumbnail at the end because I actually show you a good length retention style that you can use to really manage this issue. I'll see you next time.